Hey there, savvy travelers. It is Sarah, your local NYC guide, and I am back for a part 2 of my tips video. Today we're diving into some of the most essential tips that I didn't cover in part 1 of the video. So if you didn't see that yet, check it out. You can watch it before or after this video. We're gonna be hitting more savings, more insider tips, and things a lot of locals don't even know about. So let's do it. Let's talk about how to fit in here. One of the biggest pet peeves of people that live here is visitors not knowing the speed at which we walk. Here in New York, we're always in a rush, so we're walking fast. I'm talking like this. Can you keep up with me? Can you keep up with me? Like fast. It's almost like speed walking in other places. That's just how we do it. Try to keep up with the pace if you can. Now, if you can't, we get it. All you need to do in that situation, stay to the side so that there's the fast lane in the middle. And more importantly, if you're walking in the middle of the lane, right, and you see something nice to take a picture, don't just stop and take the picture, because the reality is there's people walking behind you, and so you're gonna hold up a lot of traffic. So just pull to the side. It's like a road. Pull to the side of the sidewalk, take your picture, and then when you're ready to start moving again, get back on the sidewalk. But don't stop in the middle of the sidewalk. There's one other thing. Come with me over here. This is very important. This guy right here, this guy. You see above me, there's a thing that has a walking person or a stop, and then it counts down when it's about to change to stop. Let me tell you an insider tip, and you can't sue me, okay? I'm just stating what I've noticed. We don't listen to that here in New York, no. We just cross. You see how many people are crossing the street and it's the red hand? And I get yelled at in other places for this because it's so second nature to me to just cross the street with the red hand. But in New York, we just look both ways and cross if there's availability to cross. We don't actually wait. Now take that advice as you want it. You cannot sue me. This is just something I notice here in New York, but don't be surprised when you see no one waiting for the crosswalk to turn green for you to cross. You're gonna be walking a lot more than you expect here. Trust me, I've given hundreds of tours to people visiting the city, and it's one of the main things they say is how uncomfortable their feet are. So it's very important to have the right shoe wear when you're visiting. Now, if you want to blend in like a local, I recommend getting some fashionable yet comfortable shoes. However, if you don't care, just get a pair of running shoes and wear those around. Although I will warn you, it's one of the ways we can tell you're not from here, because New Yorkers are very fashion forward. So if it's summertime, generally you'll see New Yorkers wearing flats that are kind of like this, or just loafers, anything along those lines. Not really open-toed shoes. We don't really do open-toed shoes in this city because it's kind of dirty. I don't know how else to say it. In the winter months, you'll see a lot of boots, a lot of flat boots that go up to here. And that's just because, again, you're gonna be outside more than you expect, and boots keep you nice and warm. My favorite brand that I tend to wear here in New York is Rothy's, because they're fashion forward and they're super comfortable. And one of the ways that you can guarantee your feet aren't gonna hurt while you're here is to alternate by bringing 2 pairs of shoes. So every day just switch your shoe wear, because then the pressure points on your feet will be different in each pair of shoes, and you're not gonna be dealing with a situation where your feet are really uncomfortable. And that's my hack to you, because no one wants to have painful feet while they're exploring the best city in the world. Let's be honest here. This next tip could make or break your trip to New York City. While you're exploring, you're going to use your phone more than you think, easily draining your battery, and you don't want to be stuck with a dead phone. That's why I always carry a power bank, not just in New York, but everywhere I travel. I recommend the Anker Prime Power Bank. It's what I use with 65 max watt output. It charges multiple devices simultaneously and repeatedly, including phones and laptops. Plus, it is 60% smaller than typical 65 watt power banks, making it easy to throw in a bag. Now pair that one with the Anker Prime Charger, a compact game changer with 3 ports, 100 watt fast charging, and a foldable design. This one is half the size of typical chargers with the same power. And this is really good for your hotel room. And to connect everything, you can really use any cable, but what I recommend is the Anker Prime USB-C to USB-C, because it's the most efficient. This one supports up to 240 watts of power output and works with nearly all devices, making the charging even faster. With this Anker Prime setup, you will never be without power. Now, I'm gonna link all of these items below. Trust me, your future self will thank you, and you will never be stuck with a dead phone while out exploring the city. make sure you try some of authentic New York City food when you're visiting. There are many dishes that are just iconic here. Probably the most popular is pizza. That's probably what you hear the most. But there's other things that you may not know about as an outsider that are pretty classic here, like an egg cream, which, spoiler alert, doesn't have egg or cream. Very confusing. Now, I have an entire video on the top 10 iconic New York City dishes and foods that you need to knock off your bucket list when you come here. Just to say, I tried it all here in New York. These are the staples, and I either loved it, I hated it, or whatever. It was whatever. I'll link that video below so you can knock it off. And if you are interested in food, then I do recommend you take our food tour, because a lot of the dishes on the food tour are some of the staple New York classic dishes, and that you can get tickets to on funkyexperiences.com. And that way it's just easier because you don't have to go out searching, you know what I mean? So enjoy. Your taste buds certainly will. Don't take disrespectful selfies at the 9/11 memorial. This is something we unfortunately see all the time, because I think people maybe forget what happened here and they start to look at it as more of just a sightseeing attraction. But this is a very, very important place in New York City. This is where 2,996 people lost their lives, and it was very traumatic here. As you may expect, it was like traumatic across the entire world. So please, if you're visiting, and we do encourage you to visit, we want you to see this, just don't take smiling selfies. It's just very inappropriate in a place where it's essentially a graveyard. There's more to New York City than just Manhattan. Most visitors just stay in Manhattan the whole time they're here, which is a huge mistake, because there's a lot of cool things to do in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and even Staten Island. I have guides to all of the boroughs, so check that out when you're visiting. The heart of New York isn't just Manhattan. It's the local people. That's what makes New York City, New York City. So it wouldn't be a true experience to just come here and stay in Manhattan. Get familiar with the transportation system before you come here. The best way to get around is using our amazing subway system, which runs 24/7. A big mistake a lot of visitors make is they don't want to try this out. Maybe they're a little skeptical. They're not used to using public transportation where they're from. So instead, they decide to take taxis. Well, taxis are great if you're going far distances, like from any New York City airport to Midtown, or if you're traveling between boroughs, such as Queens to Brooklyn. Then it makes sense. I totally support that. However, if you're trying to go from anywhere in Manhattan to anywhere in Manhattan, the reality is just use the subway. Just use it. It's gonna be faster, because otherwise you're gonna be stuck in traffic. Which brings me to my next point. You do not need a car here. Do not rent a car. Leave your car at home if you're driving here. The parking costs are astronomical, and you're probably gonna get a ticket if you try parking for free, because they change the rules like every 10 minutes. It feels like the parking rules are crazy. Come into the subway with me. I'm gonna show you something. Up until last year, the best way to buy a subway ticket, or a Metro card, as we say here in New York, was to use these machines right here. However, they are phasing out these machines. So instead, you're going to use these contactless payment methods right here. Now, if you have a credit card that allows for contactless payment, all you gotta do is tap it, or you can simply use your smartphone and tap it. So don't worry about using these machines. Just tap right in there and you're good to go. We're here in the subway, so I figured what better time than now to give you some subway etiquette, which is always a fun time because this is a unique environment. First rule, I always tell people, which they always are like, that's weird. Don't make eye contact with strangers here. I know that sounds really strange, but just like no one looks or makes eye contact with each other on the subway because it's just considered weird, especially if it's prolonged eye contact, then it's like kind of freaky. So just avoid it. In New York, we don't really do small talk, so avoid that. We're just direct people, and it's not because we're mean, it's often because we're just in a rush. So we're happy to help you out if you need directions or you need help using the subway, but just get to the point quickly, you know? Just say, hey, how do I get a Metro card? Or How do I get to Union Square? If you see an empty subway car and it's rush hour, don't get in it. Trust me, you're gonna regret it. You know why? The smell's horrendous. Or maybe there's no air conditioning in there and you're gonna literally sweat out everything you drank that day. So just avoid it. And then lastly, I would say when the train doors open, let people get out first and then get in. And then those 4 golden rules of subway etiquette, you will be riding the subway like a pro. This next tip is really important if you're visiting from outside of the United States. And that is you absolutely need to get a eSIM or just make sure you're not getting roaming charges on your local cell phone plan when you're here. There's literally nothing worse than coming back from your vacation and finding out that you racked up $200 of roaming fees, which is why I always use a eSIM whenever I travel. And the company I love is Olafly, and that's because they have unlimited 5G data in over 200 countries around the world with 24/7 customer support. I don't need to take out my other SIM card that's in my phone. I can use both at the same time and allows me to stay connected with my loved ones, with my friends, with my family, and even better, I get to post on social media because it's unlimited 5G data. Now, if you need a SIM card, I highly recommend you check out Olafly. Like I said, I have used them all over the world and they're really good here in New York too. I have a promo code for you. It is SARAHFUNKY. You can save 5% and the prices are already great. I think it's around $20, $25 for 5 days of unlimited 5G data. But you add that 5% discount on top of it because who doesn't love to save money, am I right? So do not get high roaming charges, just get a local SIM card. You will be thanking yourself for that one. Let's talk about money. Everyone's favorite topic, right? You see these? You're probably not gonna need these physically. Instead, you're just gonna need your credit card, or you can use Apple or Google Pay or any contactless payment method. Barely any people use cash in New York. In fact, just to find this cash, we had to go through all our bags. And it was a miracle. I haven't seen this in a while. You can pay everything just with your phone. So don't worry about going to an ATM because the reality is you're not gonna need this. That is unless you are going on a walking tour and need to physically give someone a tip. That's really the only situation I've seen that I need cash in New York. New York City's been called the most expensive city in the world, but it does not have to be that way. There are many amazing free things to do here, and I have a guide on all of the top free things to do. So make sure to check that out so you can save that money, keep it in your wallet, and maybe use it for something that's actually worth the money, like a beautiful Michelin-starred restaurant or an amazing rooftop bar. Those are the things you want to spend your money on and not waste it on tourist traps. So check out that video, it will be linked below. This next one is also a very common mistake that I have personally made in my travels way too many times, and you'd think I'd learned my lesson. Don't overstuff your itinerary here in New York City. I know there is a ton to do, and it can be overwhelming selecting what you really want to do. New York has a lot going on, and it can be very draining energy-wise because of how fast-paced it is. You know, it's known as the city that doesn't sleep for a reason. There's always something going on here. So I highly recommend creating space in your itinerary every day just to, you know, see where the city takes you. Don't schedule it hour by hour by hour because you'll probably regret that and end up being overwhelmed. You don't want to do this wrong because you will be uncomfortable. You have to dress appropriately for the weather here. And the reason is because you'll be outside way more than you expect. Unlike most places in the world where you're driving from location to location, here in New York City, your main form of transportation will be your feet, which means if it is cold outside, you will be freezing if you didn't bring the right type of coat. If you come from a country where you don't need a coat, you can always rent a coat. I like to recommend people to use Rent the Runway for this. If you're coming between December and February, you're going to want some thermals. I'll link my favorite thermals below. They're super cheap and they're very effective. And then if we're talking summer, you definitely will be hot here. but inside there's air conditioning, which is why I always dress like this in summer, where I have layers. I have a very detailed dressing guide video that goes by month and kind of gives you an overview of the average temperatures, what to expect, and what I recommend wearing as someone who's lived in New York my entire life. So I'll link that below for your convenience. And I'll also put some charts on screen right now that show you the average temperatures. And for those that don't live in the US, we do use Fahrenheit here. I apologize. I know it's ridiculous, but we do. Be aware of that. Don't get too confused. Celsius makes way more sense, by the way. I wish we could switch to Celsius, but we don't. That's a whole other topic though. The bottom line is be prepared and check the weather in advance so that you're comfortable when you're out exploring the city. One of my favorite ways to see the city is not just from the water, it's also from above. There are two main ways to do this. You can take a helicopter tour, which is quite pricey, but totally worth it. Or you can go to a rooftop bar or an observation deck. You just want to be high up, essentially. I love a rooftop bar. I love a good cocktail, and I'm quite picky. So I'm gonna give you some suggestions on what I think are the best rooftop bars in the city. Number one, you can actually kind of see it from here. It's called Overstory. This is in Lower Manhattan and has by far the best views of any rooftop bar in New York, and they know how to make an amazing cocktail. It's located right above a restaurant that is a Michelin star. You know you're getting quality right here. Now, it's not cheap, but it's worth it. Another place I love is the Skylark. This is a Midtown Manhattan location, which is great before or after a Broadway show. If you're gonna go there, get the Borracho Amigo cocktail. That's my go-to every single time. They also have really good frosé in the summer. And this also has an indoor and an outdoor area. The Skylark has really good views of the Empire State Building. The Panorama Room is another great choice. This is in Roosevelt Island, so that's a nice little switch up. Roosevelt Island, you can take the tram over, and this bar is located right in the middle of the East River, so you're getting a view of Queens and Manhattan, which is unique. Other good ones are Daintree and Westlight. Westlight is in Williamsburg, and that one's really nice. I would just recommend sticking with what I just told you because I've tried them all, and some of them, like 235th, are tourist traps and don't actually have really good cocktails. If you're gonna order a $25 cocktail, because that's the cost pretty much, it's very unfortunate, you might as well get something good. You know what I mean? Go to Overstory, go to the Skylark, go to the other ones I mentioned, and you'll be happy and have an amazing view. And that's it. Make sure to check out part 1 of this video if you haven't yet. And if you want more insider knowledge, join one of my tours. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.